Why the rapture is in the Bible, a response to is the rapture biblical. Now, before we continue, please like and share this video and subscribe to BP the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. I am responding to a video put out by Sam Shamoun, and his video title is the Rapture Biblical? Now, this is the how the video is going to show. He's responding to this brother named Kevin Littlefield, okay? And so Brother Sam is going to take down Kevin Littlefield's argument. Now, again, the title of the video is the rapture in the Bible? Now, it's not, he's not necessarily saying it's not in the Bible. Basically, he's going to challenge how Kevin thinks about the rapture, or what he believes, about the rapture. Now, of course, in videos like this, and this is a very popular video, it came out about 10 months ago. It has over 200,000 views. So Sam is a very popular person on YouTube. Now, let me also say this while I'm thinking about it. For that reason, because I'm going to go straight to YouTube and I'm going to unpack the video. So YouTube may interrupt us with ads. And if and when that happens, I'll scroll through them as quickly as I can. I'm also going to break down his video in different parts. So this is going to be part one. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to break down his points that he's going to use. Now, the method of his defense, of Sam's defense. Now, Kevin is out of his league. Kevin is out of his league is because Kevin is regurgitating what he's been taught, not what he studied, not not reading the Bible for himself, but he is responding. And so I guess this is a podcast that he's calling in, and I guess he gets to get on this podcast, or he might have been invited on. I've been invited on podcasts before that people when I challenge their view. Okay, so Kevin might have done it, and he goes on Sam's podcast, and then Sam sets him up with straw man arguments to just tear him down, because Kevin is really out of his league. What Kevin doesn't realize is that not only is he doesn't have the knowledge he needs to make a defense with Sam, he's not understanding the method that Sam used. And that's one of the biggest things about videos like this. One of the biggest things about defenses, debates, and arguments. If you don't understand the method. And so you're going to see that Sam's going to just bait him with questions that he can't answer, that he pretty much knows he can't answer. Well, we're going to answer those questions, okay? And that's why I said, so I don't know how many parts this will be, but I will do this video, which is only a little over 14 minutes, but it's going to be several parts, because again, I'm going to show you the scriptures, actual scriptures, and let's actually look at the scriptures that he uses. And oftentimes what you will find is that they do not read all of the scriptures, they cherry pick, but we will see. So let's get to the video. And let's get to the video. And here we go. I've already showed you the title. So Sam, Shamoun. Okay, Sam Shamoun. Forgive me if I'm mispronouncing his name. So here's where the video begins. Here we go.
What was your question about Matthew 24?
Yeah, so it's a rapture question, because I know that
see the dispensations. I just knew it. Then I say.
So one of the things is that right away. First of all, Kevin is asking the wrong question. So let me just say this: Jesus doesn't talk about the rapture in Matthew 24, although a lot of people think he does. So that's the first mistake. And then Sam brings up dispensationalism. Now, dispensationalism is a theological thought that people developed, okay? And it goes something like this, that God divided man's time into different ages, which they call dispensations. So, for example, the first dispensation was the time of innocence, they call it, before Adam fell. After Adam fell, the dispensation of sin. And then when you go into Moses, the dispensation of law. The problem is that that is not how the word is used or defined. So yeah, right off the bat, then it's just kind of bad theology. And I don't know if Kevin is a dispensationalist or believes in dispensation or not, but Sam groups him into that. Pretty much anyone who believed in the rapture or pre-tribulation rapture is a dispensationalism. And again, that's just not true.
Your dispensationalism into it?
Yeah.
Rapture. When does the rapture happen?
So, I mean, I know what it speaks about in First Thessalonians.
Now, again, another straw man argument. No one can answer the question because the question doesn't exist and the answer doesn't exist. In other words, the Bible does not say when the rapture will happen, only that the rapture will happen. And again, here's where Kevin gets himself into a pit because he's answering something the Bible doesn't state. Thus, Sam is able to use that to chop him down. Here we go.
So, I mean, I know what it speaks about in First Thessalonians, but
so when does it happen?
So that's the thing. So there's
7 years, in the middle of the 7 years, at the end of 7 years.
Well, I believe that it's a pre-tribulation rapture.
I'll give you $10 million to show me in the New Testament where it says there's a tribulation of 7 years.
No.
Okay, so that's again, he's playing with words. Let's go to the scripture and see what it actually says and why people will say it is a 7-year tribulation period. So I'm going to go to Matthew 24, and I am being brief with this. I have done a very exhaustive study, over 150 videos on end times. So this is a very, very abbreviated. But here's what Jesus says in Matthew 24. He says, so when you see the abomination that causes desolation, spoken by the prophet Daniel, standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. Then those in Judea must flee to the mountains. A man on a housetop must not come down to get his things out of the house. A man in the field must not go back to get his clothes. Woe to the pregnant women and nursing mothers in those days, and pray that your escape may not be in the winter or on the Sabbath. For at that time there will be great tribulation, the kind that doesn't take place from the beginning of the world until now and never will again. Now, Jesus says, during the time when you see the abomination that makes desolate, this will be great tribulation. So severe that when you see this, he says, flee to the mountains. So what is the tribulation? Now, he doesn't say a 7-year tribulation period. And Brother Sam knows this. Just like when people say the Trinity. Well, the word Trinity doesn't exist in the Bible, but when you compile a thought or a argument, then yeah, you use certain words that are defined. People do it in academics all the time. When they come up with their thoughts, they oftentimes will assign words or definitions to them. So when you talk about the 7-year tribulation period, what do they mean? Well, we first established that there will be a great tribulation, and then we also established when the tribulation period would be. In other words, this is what he says. When you see the abomination that makes desolation, that's the great tribulation. You're in the great tribulation. He gives certain signs. In other words, when you see, now let's ask the question, when who sees it? So let's do this. Let's go to Daniel chapter 9. Daniel chapter 9. Daniel chapter 9. Here is Daniel, who has been praying, and he receives a revelation. The angel Gabriel comes to him and gives him a revelation. And in this revelation, let's pick it up at verse 24. He says, 70 weeks are decreed. Stop. 70 weeks. Now, is he referring to 70 7-day periods? Is that what he means? Well, he's going to kind of define this here. But he says 70 weeks are decreed about your people in your holy city, and to bring rebellion to an end, to put a stop to sin, to wipe away iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. Now let's kind of go back and let's make sure that we're defining terms or understanding terms. 70 weeks. Now, a week was a 7-year period. How do we know that? I'm going to show that in a moment. So 70 sevens, or 70 sets of sevens, or we could say 70 sets of 7-year period of time. We get to how we arrive at that in a moment. What's important to know here also is the 70 weeks are decreed for the Jewish people, Jerusalem, and the temple. Those are the three pieces. Very specific. The 70 weeks are decreed, or 7 sets of 70 are decreed. So what he is talking about in this prophecy is for the Jewish people. Okay, verse 25. No one understand this, that from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince would be 7 weeks, right? 7 weeks. So not 7-day periods. When we say a week, we're talking about a 7-day period. But this prophetic counting here doesn't mean 7 days. So he says, from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince will be 7 weeks. Now understand the 7 here. 7 weeks and 62 weeks, or 69 weeks. It will be rebuilt with a plaza and a moat, but in difficult times. After those 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing, and will have nothing. So it's going to go back and unpack this now. So from the issuing of the decree. Now, this decree was issued by King Cyrus, and I forget the year. I want to say around 444, something like that, BC, something like that. Okay, but I want you to notice this decree, however, was issued by the king of the Mede and Persians during that time. And he says, King Cyrus issued a decree and said, all of the people, for the Jews, the 70-year exile is over. And so the Jews who want to go back to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple, rebuild the walls, rebuild the temple. Okay, now watch this. So now the Jews, then, this is to the Jews to go back. When King Cyrus issued that decree, and I forget, I should get that. But anyway, when he issued that decree, I think it's around, again, 400 something BC. So now 69 of the weeks bring us right up until the time of Jesus. So when we do the calculation and the kind of division, that's where we get that 1 week is a 7-year period of time, since he said, get this, 69 weeks. And since the decree is for 70 weeks, or 70 sets of 7-year period of time. Now, so follow me. This is how we get to 7 years. And you're going to see how then we get the 7-year tribulation period. All right. So King Cyrus issued a decree that started this 70-week countdown. All right. We changed thoughts, and he says, the people of the coming prince will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come with the flood. Until the end, there will be war, and desolations are decreed. Now get this. He will make a firm covenant with many for 1 week. So how long is a week? 7 years. But watch this. But in the middle of the week, he will put a stop to sacrifice and offering. And the abomination of desolation will be on the wing of the temple until the decreed destruction is poured out upon the desolator. So now you have a 7-year period, and then in the middle of the 7-year period, this prince will break the covenant. He will make a covenant for 77 years, and then he will break the covenant in the middle of it. Okay, so follow me on that, right? So now we know we have a 7-year period. Now remember we said in Matthew 24 that Jesus says, when you see the abomination that makes desolation, flee to the mountain, right? And then we know, because it would be a time of what? Great tribulation period. Well, here is Daniel talking about this 7-year covenant that he breaks, that the man of sin breaks in the middle of the 7-year period. And how do we know? Let's get down to chapter 12. Chapter 12. And look at this here. This is Daniel chapter 12. He says, verse 11, from the time of the daily sacrifice, from the time the daily sacrifice is abolished, and the abomination of desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. The one who waits for and reaches to 1,335 days is blessed. So both of these numbers, we're talking about what? Roughly a 3.5 year period of time. So now, when does this, when you talk about the last half of the 7-year covenant that he breaks and sets up the abomination, right, that makes desolation. When does he does that? When does this all happen? During this period of the great tribulation period. Now you can parse the words, and he does, but that's why you come up with the 7-year tribulation period. All right.
No, yeah, I don't think there's a tribulation. I don't think there's a 7-year tribulation. I think
How long is it?
Well, I think there's going to be.
He doesn't know. Okay, he doesn't know. He hasn't done his homework. So we just established the 7-year tribulation. We established that the 7-year tribulation period, that's what it is, right? All right. It goes back to when Jesus says, when you see the abomination, that causes desolation. But when did that abomination cause the desolation? He sets the covenant up for a week. In the middle of the week, he breaks the covenant and sets up the abomination that makes desolation. It's a 7-year tribulation period.
How long is the tribulation?
So I think there's going to be 3.5 years. The last 3.5 is the worst that it's ever been on the earth.
Okay, so now notice what you did. You just contradict yourself. You said last 3.5, which means there's a first 3.5. That's 7 years.
But it doesn't say. It doesn't say there's a yeah.
Nothing in New Testament, right? For 7 years.
Okay. Right.
Well, again, so that's parsing words. It's disingenuous, because then if I say to him, I don't know what he believes, by the way, about the Trinity. So I don't know what he believes. But if I was to say, well, show me, I'll give you $10 million if you show me Trinity in the Bible. Well, of course there's not Trinity in the Bible. But can I show you the principle of Trinity? Can I show you that there is one God revealed in 3 persons? Right? So that's a parsing of the words here. Here we go.
So number one, there's nothing about 7 years in the New Testament. That is a misunderstanding of Daniel 9:27.
Right.
Number two,
again, he doesn't explain Daniel 9:27. We just read Daniel 9:27. So now he should have explained then what is the covenant right? That the prince that who is to come, that he sets up a covenant for 1 week. He needs to define what a week is so that we can know the terms. We just read Daniel 9:27. I'm going to stop here and pick it up in part 2. Again, that's why I'm going to break this down, but he should have explained it. He just said it's a misapplication of Daniel 9:27. How? How is it a misapplication? Here's what it exactly says, that he will make a firm covenant with many for 1 week, and in the middle of the week, he will break the covenant and will set up the abomination that makes desolation. So how is it a misapplication? Then you should explain to us, excuse me, you should explain to us what does it mean. All right, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to pick this up in chapter 2 as we continue to break down why the rapture is biblical. All right, guys, I'll see you in part 2. But first, look, let me tell you, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought, a comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. And I'll see you in the next part 2.